You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's show is also brought to you by Square. Now, it's your favorite neighborhood store. They're going to be running on Square. There's certain businesses that make the neighborhood itself. These are the places that become an extension of home, whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives as well. Now, folks come to Houston for this game. Cochinita is a taco spot just across the freeway from the 3rd Ward. They run on Square, family-owned business, been operating since 2016 out of a truck. Now they're in a brick and mortar, and all thanks to their deal with Square. Right? Businesses run on Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. Before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. Chris, outside of dropping some taco references as we're playing some tortillas this week, we'll see if those things fly on the road. That'll be interesting to see how that would work. Now, aside from tortillas flying, Texas Tech wins this game to me if it becomes that scoring, in the 30s kind of. I love Houston. I love Connor. I think Tanner can do a lot of things at the tight end spot. Dean Connor, you mentioned running back. I don't know that I see them scoring 35, 38 points in this one to win.
They're not built for a shootout.
If Tech is on that path, I think that's a very clear Tech win, right?
Yeah, you know what's interesting is this has been the way of life in Lubbock for many years. Is like get into a shootout, you know, like you've got more bullets than the other guy. You're just going to keep swinging and all that. I don't know if you'll try to be in those kinds of games this year just because of how good you think your defense is. Maybe it is, maybe it is not. Joey in previous years, he's been very go for it on 4th down and like be aggressive and like this gives us an advantage. Like we're going to play the numbers, and now maybe you get into like, hey, let's punt it, let's pin them. Let's play to our defense and all that. So it's a bit different. And I think they're still in the figuring it out type scenario here. So that part is interesting. But that's where like they put up 24 points in like 8 minutes in Utah. I don't think anybody really saw that coming. Like just bang, bang, big play, big play, big play. And like, can Houston do that? Could Texas Tech do it again? I don't know, but that's my overall question. Is that just generally speaking, whatever kind of game it is, can Houston score enough points? I think, can Texas Tech get out of their own way? If you go up there, if you go to Houston, you turn it over, you come out flat, you commit 100 yards worth of penalties, you're going to be in trouble. You can't keep living like that.
There is a chance all of that happens, both between, you mentioned Houston's own coaching staff, but it is a bye week that Texas Tech is coming off of. You've been told for a couple weeks now that your stuff doesn't stink. I think that those are all in the psychological pieces of this, not off the table. I think the year that you played Baylor off of a bye week and you probably should have won that one. And it's hard to play off of a bye week.
Yeah, the last 2 years they've come off the bye week great and awful. And what they're saying up here is, hey man, we don't know anything about last year. Most of the guys that are here, like that had nothing to do with us. We're older, we're more mature, we're all that. Again, we'll find out together like what the reality is. But it is a bit tricky coming off of a bye. There's just no doubt about it. Some teams hit the ground running. Other teams, it's like, okay, middle of the second quarter, it's like, okay, finally we're woken up now. I mean, you just don't know. And that's probably what happened with Houston at Oregon State.
I think a lot of what happened in that one was Houston coming off of, they beat Colorado in what was frankly as exciting a Big 12 win, as dominant a Big 12 win as they've really had as a program, right? And so you go into the bye week, you're playing on a Friday night across the country. Like I think that all that played a factor. I want to pitch one more thing to you on this, blank wins if or whatever. If the score, crystal ball, the score is 20-17 or somewhere down in that low, do you feel confident that's a Tech win? Or I feel like that splits it more.
It probably does split it, but I mean, this is what I thought you were getting into in Salt Lake. I thought this is exactly what you were staring at, and I thought, well, this is going to be interesting because again, it's 13-10. It was 13-3, and Utah scores. That's the one drive they put together, and they got it in the end zone, and it was just 8 minutes and change left, and the crowd's going nuts, and then like 3 or 4 minutes later of game clock, the crowd was gone. And I didn't envision that happening. I certainly didn't think that that's what you, after watching the first, 52 minutes of game action, go, yeah, this thing's going to end in a 24-point blowout or thumping, if you will, to quote some idiot from a couple of weeks back. Yeah, but I think a one-score game certainly would split it, or that's probably advantage Houston because that means the crowd's still in it. That means that you've probably come out flat if you're Texas Tech. You've maybe there's some turnovers or things like that. Like that's the other thing too, is that like the special teams aspect of a game like this, because this is what we say what we want, and you can talk about Weigman and his 2 touchdown tosses in the fourth quarter, but you block 2 field goals. Granted, Oregon State special teams are a mess. They've been a mess. It's caused Oregon State coach Trent Bray to cuss a couple of times, one on live TV, one in his own press conference in multiple different weeks. But still, like 4 guys could have chewed up that game-winning field goal and blocked it. And so because one of those kinds of plays turns this game one way or the other, depending on who it's for.
And Joe McGuire himself mentioned Mekhi Muse in the return game for Houston being something he kept an eye on, which that was interesting. Number 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting because that goes back to last year's. Like Joey's diving into the tape because Mekhi, great kid, loved the kid, going to be very successful at something. But he hasn't done a lot yet this year. That's really more based on last year's video. The special teams a thing that you're worried about? If that's just something Joey's talking about because he's a coach?
No, I'm saying that if it becomes a close game, it's probably because somebody in special teams has either made a play or screwed something up, and it's flipped the momentum or something like that. That's what, because I think that just was such a heavy part of what allowed Houston to go win, is they made a couple of plays on special teams, and that's what turned it. Because think about it. If you don't block that field goal, all the touchdown passes and the storyline of Undefeated and all this stuff, it's just gone. But because the blocked field goal, it allowed all this other stuff to be, get pushed to the forefront. So that's what if you're talking about a 20-17 game, I guarantee you there's been a block of some sort, some lengthy return, some fumbled, muffed punt. I don't know. Something will have contributed to that, in my opinion.
And it's the kind of game where, like, with some high stakes, finally, 2 undefeated teams, you could see something like that happen. It's going to be a fun one Saturday, Chris. And you and Casey over at Locked On Texas Tech have been covering all week, every day, like we do here at the Locked On Network. I've been doing it at Locked On Coogs, obviously, as well. We also have a squad show coming up Thursday afternoon. We'll see what kind of shenanigans pop up and all of that. But thanks again for coming on and doing a crossover, Chris. I like talking ball with people from across the network.
And tell me real quick, tell the Tech fans about the blue, because is this?
Yeah, we can do this.
Because the when the Red Raiders played there in basketball, the game that JT Toppin was ejected from and the game that Grant McCaslin was ejected from, this is the uniform that Houston was wearing at the time. So I think Texas Tech feels like every time you go to Houston, it's like they're wearing blue. What is the deal?
So the official statement is that they're wearing it for an in-state conference rivalry game each year in each sport.
Okay.
They do it in tennis and golf and stuff too.
Okay.
It's
like the Oilers kind of thing,
So they say the city of Houston to go back to old police cars and stuff, but the Oilers are a big part of it, right? I will say I think they've picked Tech a couple times because, full disclosure, it's a fan base that Houston clashes with. And they wear red. I think the fact that you don't want to be I think there's some of that, if I'm being completely honest. But it's a fun matchup. I think that's part of it. And then it sells. It sells like hotcakes. There are people in the city of Houston that have no connection to U of H that wear Houston blue just because. Right?
Love you, blue, man. Yeah,
gotta have some T-shirt fans, man.
Yeah, Bum Phillips and Earl Campbell and Mike Renfro back in the day. I mean, I was a big fan of those Oiler teams back then.
We can talk some Warren Moon stuff too, man. That's a whole separate podcast. That's been Chris Level. This is Park Ranger, Locked on Coogs, Locked on Texas Tech crossover. Thanks, and see you tomorrow. Locked on Coogs and Locked on Texas Tech Prime and Locked on Podcast. Now we need your teams every day. I give a go Coogs. I don't know if you wreck them or not, but go Coogs, Chris.
Bang, bang. Yes, guns up.